Okay guys, we're going to do problems 28 and 29 in this video for test 2 review. And so if you look here at 28, they provide a graph, but in this graph they're asking to find the domain, the range, and find f of 0 and f of 3. So there's 4 parts to this. And so let's get started with domain. Domain is we need to use interval notation. It's essentially what are the x values that this graph will touch. Sometimes it helps if you could put an arrow here. This just means they're going infinitely in both directions. And so I recommend we read domain. Well, there's no recommendation. Domain is read from left to right, small to large. And I recommend you use some kind of way of covering. So we're just going to cruise along. The first thing we encounter is those arrows. And that means positive infinity. The last arrow is negative infinity. What this means is it's ever expanding in both directions. So my domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. Range is read from bottom to top or small to large on the y-axis. The range are the y values. And so here we come along. We see the first y value that we encounter is -4. We can put a bracket because it's exactly that value. The last thing we hit is the arrows, which implies it goes up to infinity. So our range is -4 to positive infinity. Those are the y values that this graph will touch. Now let's talk about how do we interpret f of 0. Well, remember, when it's inside the parentheses, that's your input or your x value, so x value. So we must be looking for the y value that goes with 0. So we go to the x value here's where the x value would be 0, and I have to go down to get to my graph. And so it looks like the ordered pair 0, -4 is on my graph. So that means the y value that goes with 0 is -4. The ordered pair 0, -4 is on my graph. So what about f of 3? Again, this is my x value. And I'm looking for the y value that goes with that value. So I come over here to x is 3, 1, 2, 3. And it looks like I have to go up in this case to get to my graph. And it looks like I get y is 5. So when x is 3, I get a value of 5 for the y. So the answer is 5. And so we're going to do the exact same process again with problem number 29. Again, the graph is provided and it's the same set of questions. Again, if it helps you, put an arrow on both ends. And so domain is read from left to right. So I'm going to come over here. First thing I encounter is negative infinity. The last thing I encounter is positive infinity. So domain is negative infinity and positive infinity. Range, however, is read from bottom to top. We scroll along. Again, the first thing we encounter is the arrow for negative infinity. And the last thing we would encounter would be positive infinity. So the range is also negative infinity to positive infinity. That happens sometimes, and that's okay, especially linears. Linears will always be negative infinity to positive infinity for both the domain and range. Now let's go for f of 0. Again, this is my x value, and I'm looking for the y value that goes with that. So I'm looking for 0, on my graph. So here's 0. Looks like my y value or the y-intercept is -4 again. That's a weird coincidence. So the answer is -4 when the x value is -3, not +3 in this one. So -3 would be 2, 3. Looks like I'd have to go down to hit my graph. And it looks like it goes to y value of -2. So I hope that helps with finding your domain and range of a given graph and also finding input outputs when you're just given an image.